Hey everybody! Tonight I am going to talk about light coverage versus medium coverage versus full coverage using all Senegence products. And I'm going to tell you all the tools that I use to accomplish these things and all the products that I use to accomplish all three. The first thing I want to talk about, and I get this question a lot, is what is the difference between our tinted moisturizer and our foundation? Well, our tinted moisturizer has more humectants in it, which means it has more moisture than our foundations. Unless you use our AAA foundation, which has natural oils in it that really appeal to very, very dry skin or very mature skin. So if you suffer from chronic dryness on your face, that is something that you're going to want to use is the AAA. But if you have regular or even oily skin, you definitely do not want to go the AAA route. I would rather recommend you using a skincare line, specifically our skincare line, because in my opinion, it's the best there is. But I might be biased. But with that being said, I'm going to dive right into light coverage. So light coverage for me, just throw on some tinted moisturizer. I don't recommend using your fingers. You waste a lot of product and then it's all over your fingers. And for me, it's kind of, I don't like the feeling of it. Everybody's different, but I just don't like it on my fingers. So the brush that you use is really important for this and the kind of technique that you use. So if you want a lighter coverage, what you're going to do is you're going to use, here's an example. It is a Sigma Duo Fiber F50 brush, okay? And as you can see, it's fluffy and it's long, and it really will give you a lighter coverage. It's not as dense as, if I'm going to do the comparison for a fuller coverage brush, the Kabuki angled brush is shorter bristles. It is more dense and compacted. So it gives, along with the stippling technique, gives a fuller coverage, which we'll talk about later. So this right here is going to give you that light coverage. What I like to do is I like to put some tinted moisturizer on a palette, put some on my brush, and then just wipe it on. Doing this motion, wiping motion, is going to give you the lightest coverage right here. Okay, you can kind of swirl it too for a little bit more coverage. Swirl, buffer. Potato, it's fine. I come up with my own lingo. But that's going to give you a lighter coverage. Now, if you want to pull something out, okay, so you want lighter coverage because you want to cover some areas on your face, but say you have some beautiful freckles across your nose that you really want to pull out, take some pearlizer and with the same brush, dip a little bit on there and then blot it so that it is dispersed evenly on the brush and just kind of wipe it across your nose and across your freckles where you want to pull them out. It is a highlighter. So highlight, it brings things out, right? So by putting that little bit of pearlizer over your nose or over wherever you want to pull out, it's going to pull out those freckles, and kind of cover everything else. Okay, so that's a nice little tip for a light coverage technique. Now, moving on to medium coverage. Medium coverage for me, my favorite trick in the book right now is you take tinted moisturizer, and you add a little bit of the light concealer or medium concealer or deep concealer, depending on your skin tone. You add it to your tinted moisturizer, you mix it together, and then you put it on your face with the more dense brush. And you just kind of stipple it on, or you can even wipe it if you don't want more coverage. But this is a medium coverage. It does cover beautifully, but it doesn't give that full on, there's no flaws on that face kind of look. It's a nice medium coverage. And this is my go-to everyday type thing where I need to get out the door with my daughter in the morning. And this is a new thing where I actually have to get dressed in the morning because I have to take her to school. And yeah, so I just throw on some medium tinted moisturizer with that light concealer, put it on the face, and I feel like I have something on, like I have my stuff put together, a little gloss, and I'm out the door. Now we're going to move on to a fuller coverage. And I'm going to demonstrate this because it goes in steps. So fuller coverage, the first thing that I do is I need to identify what I need to cover. So I have some darkness under my eye. So I'm going to use our white concealer. And I'm just going to put a little bit under the eye. And I'm actually going to use the same brush for everything. I'm a minimalist, and if I can get the same result doing something easier, I'm going to do it. Hashtag lazy, okay? So what I like to do is Sigma Flat Angle Kabuki, and I am going to just go right underneath my eye with this white concealer. You can also use Snow, which is a shadow sense. However, snow is drying because it doesn't have those humectants, that moisture in it, like our concealers do. So it can come out looking cakey. So if you do have drier skin, be cognizant of that. What you can do is, if you still like the look of snow or a shadow sense instead of the concealer, go ahead and use that if you have the dry skin. But after you're done with the entire coverage, go back and take our hydrating mist, spray it on a sponge. Looks just like this, a little egg or any sponge that you have, spray it on there and then press into any areas that look cakey, and it'll just moisten it right up. You can also add the smallest amount of tinted moisturizer to the shadow sense, giving it that moisture. Okay, you just need a tiny, tiny little bit, mix it together so you don't really lose the integrity of the pigment of the shadow sense, but it's giving that little extra moisture to help with the cakey look. So white concealer and brightening up underneath my eyes. Now what I'm doing is I am going in with green concealer. Now green concealer, what does that do? It cancels redness. If you watched my video on women of color, you want to be careful. Color correcting for myself is going to be completely different than of women of color. So if you are wanting to have questions answered regarding color correcting for women of color, watch my other video. It gives a lot of great information there. Okay, so now I'm going to put some green concealer. I always get red on my cheeks, and you sometimes can forget, but I have little capillaries around my nose, okay, and they're very red, and so I want to make sure that I cover that as well, neutralizing that redness. So there we go with the green. I'm going to look kind of funny right now because I am color correcting. And you always want, if you're doing color correcting, and you'll see me do brightening underneath my eye again at the end of this, but when you are color correcting, you want to make sure that you are color correcting directly on the skin. You do not want to try to fight through a tinted moisturizer or a foundation. If I were to put green concealer on top of a tinted moisturizer or a foundation, I'm not color correcting my skin. I'm just layering green on top of the foundation, and it's trying to fight through the foundation to color correct what's underneath it. So you definitely want to do that first. Okay, so now that I have the redness and the darkness color corrected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tinted moisturizer now, and I do one pump. And I take the light concealer and add to it. Okay, kind of looks like this. All right. And I'm going to mix it together. Because again, I'm going for full on coverage, right? So I don't want to waste any. Hello. There we go. So I am using the Kabuki Sigma angled brush, okay? And I am doing this technique called stippling, all right? So instead of wiping or buffering, I am layering. I am layering the foundations, the concealers, the tinted moisturizers. Especially with our products that are cream to powder. Sometimes if you are wiping layers, you're actually going to wipe off the layer that's underneath. Especially if you have not let it dry fully. So with our products, if you don't want to wait for them to dry, it's much easier and faster to do this, this technique. All right, almost done. I'm just gonna with this. Do you have an ugly face? Okay. All right, now that I have the tinted moisturizer and concealer mix layered on, I am now going to go over it with foundation. I personally use Fawn. I do want to say that Fawn is more of a neutral. I know that a lot of people say when in doubt, dewy when you're color matching. I actually say have no fear, Fawn is here, okay? Because Fawn is actually more of a neutral, in my opinion, than Dewy. Dewy can kind of turn warm or yellow on cool tones, whereas Fawn stays pretty neutral throughout. So I really, really like Fawn, and it's kind of my default when I'm not sure. Well, I'm much better now than I was before, but with color matching. But when I was not sure before, I would always kind of default to the Fawn. Okay, so now I'm going to do a pump of Fawn. Doing the stippling technique again, we are layering because I'm not going to sit and wait for it to dry completely. Make sure to go down the neck. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to brighten up underneath the eye. If you want a more dramatic brightening, okay, you can use snow or you can use our white concealer again on top, all right? But if you want just a light bright, I like to use Candlelight. Candlelight has great pigment, okay? If you are more of a cool tone, because this is a warmer tone shadow sense, you can use Sandstone Pearl. However, I don't like the pigment of Sandstone Pearl. That's just my personal preference. It's not as pigmented, so it doesn't cover as much or brighten as much. If you want the coverage, but don't want to switch to Sandstone Pearl, just add a little bit of Snow or Sandstone Pearl into the Candlelight, and it'll help neutralize the yellow undertone that is in the Candlelight, but keeping the integrity of the coverage. So I'm just going to put some right underneath. I always have to remember to close my mouth. I'm like, oh my gosh. No one wants to see down there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our natural powder, and you can use our natural powder for any skin tone, as light or as dark, okay? You just have to press it into the skin and then you brush it off. I especially like to do this on photo shoots. It really takes away the shine. This is for a very matte look. If you don't want a super matte look, a really set look, then I would skip the powder portion of this. But this gives a lot of coverage. Kind of sets everything. And it gives you a very matte look. So if you're not into the matte look and you want more of a dewy look, I don't recommend doing this either. And there you have it. From light to medium to full coverage. I hope this video helped. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.